Hello guys, today's topic is deep cloning. You know that it is a term that we take from OS. What actually deep cloning is. You know that in my last video I already covered what is object cloning and what are the steps are required for object cloning. But deep cloning is some different areas. Sometimes you face this type of questions. What is deep cloning? Cloning is of two types. One is shallow, another one is deep. But the main part is deep cloning. Normal cloning is called as shallow cloning, but the deep cloning is what actually happens here. Not only the original object is cloned, but also the internal object is also cloned. What is the meaning of that? Take an example. There is a class is there. That class name is student. Student is a class. Now that is fine. Student object. Here you see. Now the student object must require a address proof. It must require a address proof. Now it is called as word. For address proof, there are some information must be required. It is called as fine. That is address. Here you see, that is object. That is the student object. That is the address object. Now here address object is the internal object for word. That is student object. Now for address, what is required? Require the flat number. Here you see, that is the flat number is required. It required the city, it required the state. Fine. Forget. Now, that is what happens. Here you see, take an example. Your flat number is AY54. Take an example. That is city is what? That is here is Bhubaneswar. That is Bhubaneswar. State is what? That is Odisha. Here you see, that is Odisha. Now here what happens? The student required some information. Here you see. What type of information it hold? The first information it hold address object. Here you see, it required the address object. Take an example. If the base address of the object is 15911, take an example. Now it can contain what? 15911 because it is holding the reference of this class. Now when it hold the address, point to this area. Now what is the next it hold? It hold the name. You know that. Take an example. The name is Ram. Ram is the name. Anyway. Then next one is roll number. It contains the roll number is word 101. Then after that, what it contain? It contain what? Course. What the course? He enrolled. Ram enrolled the course that is called as Java. Fine. Now, what is the fee that student pay? Ram pay. Take an example. He pays 30,000 rupees. Fine. Let us pay it. Now, this is what this is called as original object. Now, what is the meaning of deep cloning? Deep cloning means what? Here what happens? The student object is cloned. Here you see. Now, when the student object is cloned, it also hold address, that is name, it hold role, it hold that is course and fee. Not only the student object is cloned, but also the address object is cloned. You know that when the address object is cloned, here also same thing happens. The same datas are copied. When the same datas are copied, what it contains? AY54. Your city is BBSR, Bhubaneswar. State is that is Odisha. But that when the that is what internal object is cloned, your address is never same 14911. It contain. Now here what happens when the original student object is cloned, at that time it is containing word 14911 and point to this object. Here the name is same, cloned, that is a RAM. Here the roll number is 101. Here the course is word that is Java. Here the price is word that is 30,000. Here you see if the base address of the original object is 10101. Here you see. Here the base address is 500. That is 01. That is content. This concept is called as word deep cloning. In case of deep cloning, the student object is not only cloned but also the internal object is cloned. For student object, the internal object is word address. Address object is also cloned. But remember one thing, for this concept deep cloning, there is a restriction is there. You have to override the clone method of which class? Object class. You must override the clone method of which class? That is object class. Getting? Now I show you how it will practically work. That is the main concept. I just draw the diagram. I explain this concept. Now I show you how it practically works. Getting? Thank you. As for the explanation, I just move to the programming part. You see here, there is a class I can design, that is student. But before that, you know that student having a requirement of the internal object, the internal object is word. That is address. So what I can do here, I just write class, that is address, implements cloneable. Here you see, because I not only required to clone the student object but also I required to clone word address object. When the student object is cloned and also the address object is cloned, then it is called as word deep cloning. Now in the address object, I already show you the diagram or explanation part. I already show you. There are three members are required. What are the members I have to pass here? I just write here, that is a fine public, that is a string, here you see, that is a flat number, here you see. What the flat number I have to pass? AY, that is that is AY 54. I pass here. Now what is my next job? Public, that is string, that is city, here you see, that is city is fine Bhubaneswar, here you see, that is I pass here Bhubaneswar. That is public, that is string, I have to pass here, state, I have to pass, that is Odisha, here you see, I pass here Odisha. Getting? Simple way. What is my intention? These are the object members for the address class. And what I did here, I just initialize the members. So when the object is constructed for the address class, automatically the flat number is AY54, the city is Bhubaneswar, state is Odisha. Now what I can do here, I just override which method? Clone method. Because I already covered. For a deep cloning, you have the requirement to override which method? Clone method. You know that a clone is the method of object class and address is inherited from which class? Object class. Because Java already specify that if a class not inherited from any other classes, then that class must inherit from which class? Object class. What I can do here, public, that is here is address, that is clone. Here I just throws one exception, that is clone not supported, fine. Clone not supported exception. Remember, I already covered, in case of object cloning, I already covered what is the syntax of the clone method in object class. In object class, the return type of the clone method is object class reference. But here, what I returned, address class reference. No issues. Java tell there is a term Java supports that is called as covariant return type. In case of covariant return type, the return type can be the child class reference. Here the return type is varied. But I know that everybody always remember one thing. That is, in case of overriding, the return type is same. But Java supports a term that is called as covariant return type. Now it is the concept of word covariant return type. There is no issues are there. Java supports this feature. Now what it does here, return. Here if I write a super.clone, that means what, I call the clone method of which class? Hello, I call the clone method of which class? That is object class. Super class clone method I call. But what is the return type of the super class clone method is? The return type of the superclass clone method is object class reference. But my return type is word address class reference. What I did here, typecasting. You know that Java tell typecasting not only possible in case of primitive data types, but also typecasting is possible in case of object reference. Here I cast it. No issues are there. Now what is my next job? End of this block. Now I just override another method. What the method I override? That is public string. What's the method is to string. Yeah, you see. What's I write? Return. Would I pass here? That is a flat number is. I just pass the flat number. Anyway, that is the flat number plus. Return the, that is word city, fine. I just specify the city name. Then I just use that is word what is the state name? Here you see that is the state, fine. You just return here, that is state. Over. Now this is the end of the first class, address class I specify. Java tell for deep cloning, your student class object not only cloned but also the internal object related to a student object is word address, that is also cloned. And as a developer, you have to override the clone method. I just did the job. I override here. Now I move to the main class, that is public class. Now you know that what is the class name? Here you see I have to specify word that is a fine. Here you check. That is student class I design. This class also inherit from word cloneable, must inherit from cloneable. What I did here, implements that is cloneable. Because you know that for object cloning, the first step is word your class must inherit from which interface? Cloneable interface. I just do one thing here, that is string name is equal to what's I pass here, that is Ram. Ram is the name. That is the int roll is equal to 101 is the roll. Now what is my next job? What I can do here? I just do one thing, that is a fine string, that is the course is equal to, I just join, he joined Java course. Now that is a double, what I did here, that is a double fee is equal to, he paid 30,000.00, he paid. Now after that, what the next part is, it has the requirement of the address object. I just write here, address A is equal to new address. Here what happens, it constructs the address object for the object of the student class. Address object is the internal object for the student object. Now what the next job is? Student object is also, student also inherit from the same class. What the class is? The object class. So Java tell, in case of deep cloning, you have only one task. You have to override which method? Clone method. Now here also I did the same job. Public, that is student, that is clone. It throws one exception. What the exception is? Clone not supported. Here you see, clone not supported exception. Getting? Now here also I did the same job. There is no differences are there. Now what is my next job? Student, that is SS is equal to. Student is the name of the class. SS is the reference. I have the requirement of typecasting, that is student. What I did, I just write here super dot, that is clone. When I write super dot clone, it called the clone method of which class? Object class. But what is the return type of the base class or object class clone method? That is the object class reference. But I want to assign it to the student class reference. What do you require? Casting. Now, what is my next job? Student class having an internal object that is called as address. So, I not only, here what happens, I'm just create a clone of student. But the internal object is also cloned. How can I clone the internal object? I just write student dot. Student object dot, internal object is word AA. Because A stands for word address. First line I clone the student object, but inside the student object there is another internal object is there, that is the address object. I have to clone it. Now this dot A dot, that is clone. Here you see, this means current object through which I call the clone method. Current object dot AA. AA means word address is also cloned. In the first line, student object is cloned. In the second line, the internal object for the student object is the address object, that is cloned. Then after that, what I write here? Return, that is SS. Over. I just, that is complete my job. Here you see, now what happens, the student object not only cloned, but also the internal object is cloned. Now you just do one thing, enter into the main public. Here you see, here what I can do, that is string args. We just enter into the main. Now inside the main, I do the job. Now here you see what I can do here, that is student AA is equal to new student. Here you see, when I construct the object of the student class, for that student class what happens, name is Ram, roll number is 101 and course is Java, fees is 30,000.00. And beyond that, inside the student there is an address object is there. Address object is also cloned. Here you see, here I just write that is KK, I just pass here, take an example. Now that student object is cloned. Are you getting or not? Now see here what I can do here. I just construct the student object and here what happens, that is the student object is cloned. Now after that, that is student object is created. I want to clone the student object. How can you clone the student object? Within the try block, you write the code. Here you see what I can do here. That is a student, that is JJ is equal to. I just write KK dot, that is clone. So here you see, this is the way I can create the clone of the object. Student object is now cloned. Now this concept in Java is called as word deep cloning. Now what I can do here, That is here you see catch. Which exception? That is a clone not, that is supported, sorry, that is supported exception. That is, you know that this concept in Java is called as deep cloning. This is called as deep cloning. Here the student object is not only cloned but also the internal object. For the student object is word. Internal object for the student object is address. That is also cloned. This concept in Java is called as deep cloning. So this is the powerful term used in Java. That is related to OS. I just explained how the deep cloning is possible. In Java, this concept is called as word. This concept is called as deep cloning. Here you see. Now, how you compared it, that is a different thing. You can also compare it, yes, it is deep cloning. For the student object, I am not only create a clone, but also I create a clone of the address object. So thank you. That's the end of the topic.